Generating traffic and sales can be a challenge for online merchants. But selling on the Walmart Marketplace puts your products in front of millions of customers who shop on Walmart.com. And right now, sellers who join Walmart Marketplace can save up to 50% on referral and fulfillment fees for the first 90 days. So get started today. Head over to marketplace.walmart.com/savings. That's marketplace.walmart.com/savings.
Today's podcast is sponsored by SLI Systems, providers of intelligent site search and navigation solutions. Learn more at sli-systems.com and listen to their interviews at ecommercepodcast.com. Welcome to E-Commerce Conversations with Pat Callahan, a weekly podcast focusing on e-commerce topics, featuring interviews with prominent people in the e-commerce space. And now let's move right on over to Pat to see who he has queued up for this week's interview.
Welcome to E-Commerce Conversations with Pat Callahan. Today I'm joined by Steve Mizrahi, CEO of Insider Hosting, a company that provides a variety of hosting solutions. Welcome, Steve.
Thanks, Pat. It's a pleasure to be here.
And it's great to have you here. Why don't we start out with, why don't you tell me what Insider Hosting is and the services that you provide?
Sure. Insider Hosting is a full-service hosting provider. What that is we basically make sure that your website is always online 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. We handle pretty much all different types of clients. We do personal clients, we have business clients, we have enterprise clients. Something that's really unique about us is that we own all of our own hardware, our infrastructure. We are essentially the data center, so everything is fully controlled, owned, and operated by us.
And that's got to be a benefit to people who host with you, I would assume.
Absolutely. When we first started, we had equipment at other providers that we rented, and we found that there would be problems. Whether it would be there would be a hardware problem with one provider in particular. We ordered 3 brand new servers, and all 3 of them, after 2 days of receiving them, ended up all having bad motherboards. And when we tried to contact the company, they would, sort of pass the buck, saying that it was their vendor that didn't test this or test that. But ultimately, we're the ones that have to answer to our clients. So
Sure.
that then, made us look into alternative solutions, and that's where, we decided that we were going to create our own facility and handle it that way.
Okay. What would you say Insider Hosting specializes in?
I would say we specialize in mostly mission-critical hosting of applications, of software, stuff of that nature.
And for those who aren't familiar with that term, would you just define that real quick? Mission-critical?
Mission-critical is anything that needs to be online 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. It can't be down. You need the ultimate in redundancy, from the servers to the network to staff. Everything needs to be fully redundant. So if there's one component that essentially fails, there's that one. It's a single point of failure. So we try to really eliminate that, and have a very, very, I would say, a very, very strong product as a result of that.
Yeah. Steve, you and I have spoken once before on a story that I was working on for the magazine, and you told me a great story about how Insider Hosting came to be. It's by far the most interesting story I have ever heard in the e-commerce space. If you don't mind, would you go ahead and tell that story again?
Yeah, sure.
And
I'd love to.
And don't spare any details.
Yeah. Basically, Insider Hosting was started in October 2001, and it was just myself. I didn't have any staff or employees or anything. I was just running it off of a reseller account from another provider called Ventures Online, and they were based out of Colorado. And at the time, they were extremely solid. They were a great provider to work with. And I just had a $35 reseller account where I was given a bulk allotment of disk space and bandwidth, and I can distribute it however I, please. So I then, began hosting friends and family, which is what I, strongly suggest for new hosting companies if they're going to, come into the space, because it's a good way to start where you're not losing money, so to speak, from day one. So I was able to host, some friends and family and just enough to pay for my reseller account. And then, I got some word of mouth. I did some advertising on Yahoo and Overture and stuff like that, and got a couple more clients, and then word of mouth really spread. And then I would say within about 2 or 3 months, we had a very solid package, which was a multiple domain hosting package, which at the time was pretty revolutionary. That's when single domain hosting was, what everybody was selling.
Right.
So what I wanted to do is I wanted to enable people to host for cheaper, but still have that reliability. And so they could host multiple domains under one account. And that was our best-selling package, and it still is actually to this day. And so we started getting our first server, our own dedicated server, which I was really happy about. And that was about 3 months after I started. And I was still, working by myself. I was putting in 20-hour days. And then I would say maybe about 2 months later, we got our second server, and the word of mouth kept rolling in and the advertising and whatnot. And then I found our main server administrator. I put an ad out on local, on I would say the radio. We put an ad, and we also did one in Craigslist. And it just, it built from there. And then we went from one server, we went to 2 servers, and then I had a support, one guy that helped me with support. And he covered the hours where I was able to sleep. And we kept growing and growing, and then we had 3, 4, and then we diversified data centers because we didn't want to sort of put all of our eggs into one basket, so to speak.
Right.
So after we got a second data center, it was based out of Fremont, and clients liked that location, especially clients that were local to us. And
I should point out real quick that you're located in California.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're located in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
So the Los Angeles location was definitely, well, I should say the California location was definitely something that was really good for our local clients. And we just kept selling that core niche package, and then we diversified. I would say about a year later, in 2002, it was in I believe it was in June, and we went to a data center in Texas. And then we had, we built 5 servers worth in that data center over there. And then finally we went to Atlanta. And then Atlanta was the place where we had this issue that I just spoke of earlier, where we had the bad hardware. And having 4 or 5 different locations was also very tough, because we always had to know what was going on at every location at any given point in time. So it became a lot harder to manage when we started having, 10 servers, 15 servers.
Sure.
And then we ran into that hardware issue, and then we just made the decision, and I was talking to my guys, and I said, hey, what do you think if we do this? Like, how will this affect our current client base and our future growth? And they were very supportive of that decision, and that's when we decided that we were going to move to co-location instead of renting servers, and that was a different world.
Really?
A little different world. Yeah, because initially you'd have the provider that you were with handle all the hardware issues. Like if a hard drive died, they would handle it. So you wouldn't need to have 24-hour-a-day on-site staff. But now when you move to co-location, it's a total different ballgame, where you need to have your own switches, your own routing gear, on-site staff in the event of a problem. And it was definitely a crash course, because again, it was just me and another guy, and we would have some very long nights, and and it was a great learning experience, absolutely. And if I had to change it, if I had to change anything, I wouldn't. I'm very happy with the outcome, and we now have close to 400 servers in our server farm. We have a disaster recovery site where we back up about 15 terabytes of data once a week, and it's just amazing. And I couldn't be happier with the progress of everything.
Well, that's all the time we have for this week's E-commerce Conversations with Pat Callahan. I hope you enjoyed it. Tune in next week for part 2 of the interview with Steve Mizrahi.